What's up, guys? Another Scene Buster podcast for you. Justin Prater here in Fort Worth, and my good buddy Gordon Lewis in Lubbock, Texas. The
Some
majestic
things.
Lubbock, Texas.
The majestic Lubbock, Texas, home of Texas Tech University, and now Mark Adams.
Congratulations, you found a replacement, if you want to call him that, for Chris Beard.
I'm pretty excited about it. I am curious what's going to happen because the thing Texas Tech has been known for, really, for from a basketball perspective, is our defense, and Mark Adams is the architect of that defense. So I think it'll be interesting.
Oh yeah.
As Tech guys, it's nice to have somebody that wanted to stay. Beard offered him a spot, and he said, "No, I'm good. I'll stay here." So,
Yeah,
we'll see what happens.
he said I'm already at my dream job, Mr. Beard. So
Yeah,
you can
basically,
shove it.
I don't know if he said that so much. He may have. I don't know, but
Well, he's
but
definitely not getting a head coaching job at Tech if he goes to be an assistant with Beard.
that's true. So he got his head coaching gig, and we'll see what happens now.
Well,
So
I like the move by Tech to keep it in house. They could have went and got whoever, Joe Blow here, whatever, but um, I think they made the right decision. That guy is a Tech alumni, correct?
yeah,
So he ain't going nowhere. I mean, he'll be there as long as they want him, and hopefully he can just roll right through this transition and keep getting good players and stay
but
competitive.
yeah, as I say, there are some guys who are you know uh, pretty excited. I mean, he's got some experience, so I think it'll be good. I think it'll be good.
Absolutely. How about
I was
the
just about to
Baylor
say,
Bears?
speaking of basketball,
Speaking of basketball,
I mean, admittedly, I wanted to see a perfect season. I'll admit that it was nothing to do with Baylor. It was just I wanted to see a perfect season
quit lying
because
to us, Gordon. You're lying to
no,
us.
it really wasn't.
Salty.
No, not at all. Like, hey, congratulations, Baylor. By the way,
Absolutely.
congratulations. They came out and played dominant. I
They
mean, they
beat the
dominated.
brakes off of them.
Yeah, they dominated that game, and in that sense, I'm absolutely happy for them. Yeah, I mean they came prepared. They did everything they had to do, and they came out and they won that game from the
Yeah.
tip, basically.
Yeah, my mom, she lives in Waco. I was originally born in Waco. My mom still lives there, and all my family down there is huge Baylor fans. They root for the girls, the guys, baseball, basketball, football.
Oh yeah.
So you can imagine they're having a pretty big party down there in Waco tonight.
Oh yeah.
And I guess just to the Zags, man, good season. And I know y'all are probably disappointed losing on the losing the undefeated season in the last game, but y'all had a hell of a
Yeah.
year, and y'all be back. You'll be all right.
Oh yeah. They'll be back for sure. Solid season. You hate to lose it like that, but I mean, if you think about it, that's there's no good way to end a season aside from a championship. But if you have to pick a worst scenario, like a best worst case, I would say that's probably it. You lose the national championship.
Yeah. I mean, that's just, yep, coming runner up is about as best as it gets without winning it all. So, but Baylor ends up winning 86-70. They are your men's NCAA national champions. And they were led by Butler, who had 22. But they're four guys that are going to be in the NBA. They got Teague, he had
Yeah.
19, Mitchell had 15. They played really good, and the team
Yeah.
shot 43.5% from three. So, and they shot 45% from the field. So, played pretty good, man.
Yeah. It was definitely a solid game. And like I said, for them, just like I mean, just from the beginning, just if you didn't even have to watch the whole game. If you tuned in at any point, it was like, oh, by the way, Baylor's dominating. And then you turn around and go back. So I
Yeah.
mean, it's an interesting thing because they played so well. And I honestly was kind of surprised. I really didn't expect them to do I didn't expect it to go that way, I guess is a good way to put it.
Yeah. Interesting fact on the game, Gordon, is I don't know if you know this, but they are the first team from Texas to win a men's basketball championship since the Glory Road movie, the UTEP guys, which was actually
Oh yeah.
Texas Western back then.
What was that,
So
66?
it was, I think that's right, 65, 66.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah, you can check it out, make sure. But yeah, so if any of y'all seen the Glory Road movie, that's about Texas Western and how they started five black players. It's during the civil rights movement and everything. So they started five black players against Adolph Rupp in the national championship in Kentucky. So um, they made a movie. Disney made a movie called Glory Road about it, which was really good. If you
It
haven't
was
seen
really
it,
good.
and so but Baylor becomes the first Texas team to win since that squad. So to win the national
That's
championship, pretty cool.
that's insane. That's insane. But it was 1966. But that's awesome, man. I mean, Texas as a state does generally have pretty significant. I mean, it's worth noting that in the last two Final Fours, so 8 teams total made it. 3 of them were from the state of Texas. 2
Yeah.
this year, 1 in 2019. Obviously, there wasn't a tournament in 2020, but Texas is not. We do more than play football down here.
Oh yeah, we got good baseball. We got good everything.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's a shame. Gordon Tech probably should have been the ones to have that little record we was just talking about. First team since you
Yeah,
Texas Western,
I
but
mean that game was rough, but that was also, I mean, you know, to make Elite Eight and then turn around and make the Final Four in the national championship game. I mean, that was just a wild,
hell of a run.
wild
It's fun to
thing.
watch, wasn't it? When
Oh
Tech
yeah,
did it.
it's always fun to watch a team, and I kind of talked about this in my Sunday shorts. Is like it's fun because it's one and done. Because I was kind of struggling with like the what makes basketball more exciting than the baseball side, because you have pretty much the same number of teams, but the baseball format is set up in a much, much, much different way. It is not one and done at any point. So
Mm-hmm.
it makes it a lot harder for smaller schools to get in because they have to win multiple games, and that requires a lot of arm talent. It requires you to have 3 or 4 pitchers who can really shine. And so a lot of these bigger schools are able to, perform well. Having said that, there are some small schools that do make it all the way in. But man, I mean, you know, Abilene Christian beating Texas this year, UNT beating Purdue this year.
Yeah,
Um, all those fun games that
Texas
that
represented well, man. They did.
oh yeah, for sure.
So NCAA men's basketball is a wrap. In case you missed it, the Stanford girls are the ones that won the women's title. So, but Gordon, have you seen the NFL news going on?
Oh man, leave it to the NFL to have something blockbuster happen on like a random day. Like let's just pause for just a second and say this is how we know how
NFL's king, baby.
NFL is king in this country, because it's a Monday, right? It's the day after Easter. Like
Random
today,
off-season day for the NFL.
yeah, the random off season. It's a random Monday for them. And today they were like, hey, NCAA basketball national championship. That's the story. That is the sports story today. And NFL was like, hold my adult beverage.
Yep. So, in case you missed it, um, the biggest market in the country, the New York Jets, traded Sam Darnold today to the Carolina Panthers, and they didn't get a whole lot for him. Really, they were just kind of
I was kind of
shipped
surprised
him
by
out of
that.
town. They got an okay haul. They got a sixth
It,
round pick for this year, Gordon, and they got a second and a fourth for next year. So
I just like I don't feel like that's a good haul for a guy that was your starter. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like I just feel like that is um
yeah, it's
I
a
don't
little
know, man.
underwhelming. You could say it's underwhelming for New York, but they're probably they know they're taking a quarterback sitting there at number 2. They're going to get whoever they want besides Trevor Lawrence, I imagine. So, um, what do you think it means for Teddy Bridgewater?
I don't know, man. I am curious about that because I think that Bridgewater is certainly a talented guy. But they struggled last year, right? Like was that was rough. And I think because of that, you have to look at the um they just struggled last year, and I think that they're gonna do whatever they can. I don't think Sam Darnold's the answer, though. I mean, really, because you look last year, Christian McCaffrey was hurt for how much the year?
Most of it, yeah.
Yeah, I
Most
mean,
of it.
like that is the biggest weapon that they have, and you take him away.
Yeah, people that had the number one pick in fantasy can tell you exactly how long he was hurt last year.
Yeah,
They all remember.
hopefully he can. I'm really hoping he can stay healthy, because man, he is a very talented young man, and when he is on, he is on. So, hopefully he can. Hopefully he can get back this year.
Indeed. How your Dodgers looking right now? Bottom of the eighth.
Oh man, the Dodgers are rolling today.
Yeah, they kicked the tires and light the fires, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean they traveled up to the Bay. They're not playing a division rival. I guess maybe they just got hyped thinking, we go to the Bay, we got to bring our A game.
Yeah,
You
I
and I
can
were kind of
guarantee
talking.
you that
You,
Oakland Athletic fans, they don't like the
I
Dodgers
was
very much either.
I was just about to say, you and I were kind of talking earlier about the Oakland A's and
Sad.
what's gonna happen? How does
I don't
that
know.
like
I don't know, man, but it is sad because they are a historic franchise,
they
and
are?
we remember the Bash Brothers and all that, and
Yep. Well, and we remember
Ricky Henderson,
Moneyball and
yeah, Moneyball, Ricky Henderson. So they're a historic, classic franchise, and they just got. I think at this point, if you want me to be honest, and I don't know how they do this. I'm not the guy that can figure out how to do this, but I think they got to get out of Oakland, just like everyone else is.
yeah, we kind of talked about that, and I don't know how they pull it off because notoriously the A's are cash strapped, right? Like they don't have a
Mm-hmm.
lot of money.
Yeah,
Um, so they certainly don't have the money to leverage anything. The city of Oakland is obviously not building a new facility.
they
They
will
made that
not do that.
abundantly clear. Um,
Yeah.
hence the reason that the Raiders are gone.
Yeah, even to keep an NFL team, they wouldn't build a new stadium. So
Yeah.
that's pretty wild.
Well, and not just any NFL state, like any NFL franchise. I think it's worth noting that the Raiders are, I mean, like everybody in Oakland is a Raiders fan.
Yeah,
Like you go around the DFW Metroplex, and not everybody around the Metroplex is a fan of the Cowboys. There's a lot of non-Cowboys fans.
yeah, we got a big melting pot down here in
Yeah.
DFW. So
Well, and I get that, but I'm saying, even if you cut a section out of DFW that was similar in size to Oakland, I would say that the spread is going to be pretty significant. So I don't know. I think it's interesting, man. Like, of course, now Elvis Andrews plays for them. They also have Mitch Moreland. So they got a couple of, former Rangers over
yeah,
there.
familiar
Guys that,
names.
yeah, guys that we all, if you've watched the Rangers at all, you know who they are. So you hate to see it. The Dodgers are that like, or not the Dodgers, the A's are that like perennial underdog, that you want them to do well, but not like too well because they're a division rival. But
Yeah, they'll have them years where they just kind of pop up, and it's kind of like they kind of remind me of Tampa Bay, like a market that doesn't care too much, and a torn, decrepit stadium,
yeah.
and they just have these seasons where they pop up, and it's sad because they'll have a great year, and it's like there's not a whole lot of people that care.
Well, the really interesting thing to me is that speaking of Tampa Bay, um, Tampa Bay has horrific attendance. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's
it
what I'm
is
talking about.
abysmal. And there's been a lot of discussion about why. One of the reasons being the physical location of the stadium, and it's not real easy to get to, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting because the Miami Marlins don't exactly set the world on fire
No, they don't.
as far as attendance goes. They have a nice stadium. They have that weird mural out there, but they have a nice stadium.
Cool stadium,
Um,
yeah.
but they don't set, and it's interesting because like it's Florida and baseball. I mean,
Yeah, it is
those go
strange.
together.
It is strange, and Miami's done everything to try to remedy this. Like they built the new stadium, they changed the uniforms, the cool Miami
Yep.
colors.
Yep.
They even had all the superstars there at once until the new ownership took over, and they just decided to rebuild. But they had Giancarlo Stanton
Yep.
and Jose Fernandez before he tragically passed away, and
Yeah. D
and
Gordon.
D Gordon, man. I mean, they were low. Ozuna, man. I mean,
Oh yeah,
they had a bunch of hitters, and it was probably fun to go. And they still couldn't get people in that stadium, and it was
yeah,
brand new. That year that the first year they had the stadium, they did really good on attendance. They were
yeah.
getting
It's true.
70. I think for most new stadiums, they'll average about 75% capacity for like the whole year, and that's about what Miami did. So even on weekdays and all that combined, so but ever since then, yeah, it's just tailed off again, and they haven't been good to be fair recently.
No,
But
they haven't been very good.
and they got rid of all the superstar appeal.
But
But
that's kind of what that team does, though. I mean, after both of their,
World
they've
Series,
got
yeah,
2 World Series, and
hmm
literally it was all just everybody out after
yeah,
both of those.
that's
It was like,
true.
oh, we won, cool. Now leave, all of you, just go. You know, that's a wild thought process to have. So
I've been thinking about this a lot, and I've always wondered this. We touched on it earlier, like before we started the show, but why does New Orleans not have a baseball team with LSU being so huge? Like LSU baseball is huge in Louisiana, and they have a basketball team and they have a football team, and I just imagine that a New Orleans baseball game would be. How fun would that be to be in New Orleans and go to watch a baseball game there?
oh man,
Like,
I
I
can't
don't
even
understand.
imagine.
So,
I can't imagine, honestly.
like, why can't the A's move to New Orleans? Is what I'm trying to get to here. Why can't the A's go to New Orleans?
Well, money
Yeah,
first off.
of course. But
Uh, but that is a good question. It's also worth noting, man. Like if you've ever looked at a map of the U.S. With like where franchises are located, you can definitely tell how old baseball is and like how it developed. Because if you look, man, like the Northeast, like
yeah,
everybody has one,
hmm
and then you go to the Midwest, and there's a lot of teams in the Midwest, right? You have, you got the Toronto. Obviously, you got a team in Toronto and everything, but like basically, once you get to like Minnesota, Kansas City, that line, there's nothing really.
yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of,
Arizona, Denver, or Colorado. I mean,
but
but
yeah, I mean, if
it's
you
not
draw a
much.
line, if you draw a line straight down on the western side of that, you have the Rangers and the Astros, you have the Rockies, you have the Diamondbacks, and you have the Mariners, and then literally every other team on the West Coast is in California.
Yeah,
And a lot of that goes to the fact that the Dodgers moved literally across the country in 55, I think it was 54, 55, somewhere in that range. And then the Giants quickly followed behind. And then it sort of developed out of that. But it's just really interesting because you look, Louisiana, there's nobody, I think that's a big enough market.
it's definitely a big enough market. New Orleans is a big market. You know,
Now I could see I could see Wyoming, Idaho, Montana,
yeah,
South
there's not
Dakota,
cities there that
yeah, I
well,
could totally see those not being a big enough market.
yeah, I think maybe Salt Lake City could handle a baseball team, but the only teams that we were just talking or the only places that we were just talking about that have any other professional teams would be like OKC and Salt Lake City have basketball teams, but there's
Yeah,
no NFL teams outside of those ones we mentioned. Like,
true. Do you
so
wonder?
there's just not
So,
a market there that can sustain that.
do you think that um, a baseball team would succeed in like a professional baseball team would succeed in like Portland or Vegas?
Vegas, I think so. Yeah, I think Vegas is a good market for teams to be in, especially like they got the hockey team and now they got the football team. I think
I
they
am
could.
curious to see how the football team is able to do attendance wise,
Oh, I think they'll do just
given the
fine.
fact I think they will, but like Vegas is a town of, it's travelers, right? Like they do have a significant local population, but it's interesting that they are a town of travelers, people coming in, leaving. So I'm curious, like, I guess I'm more curious what is going to be the focus, or what is the breakdown going to be of like local fans to people who are coming in to see the stadium and stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah. I happened to be taking a load when I was a truck driver to go. I went through Vegas whenever the Golden Knights were in the Stanley Cup for
Mm-hmm.
it was their first year there.
Yep.
And I can tell you that that city was like, I mean, sure
Electric.
they went to they went to the Stanley Cup, but that place had fully accepted and taken on like this is our team.
Okay.
And
I could believe
I
that.
was getting that not from you know travelers there. I was getting it from the
The
Uber
locals.
drivers,
Yeah.
the blackjack dealers, the the people that
Yeah.
live and work there. So I think the Raiders will get the same treatment and maybe even more because we know NFL's king, and that's hockey in Vegas, and they just were like ecstatic, like they were all about that team, and they sell jerseys like you saw Vegas Knights jerseys everywhere, and
I think
so
Vegas, it makes sense to me, right? Because I think Vegas is a team, like it's a city that it's gambling, but sports are as American as anything in my mind. Like,
yeah,
and not just a single sport. Like that's, if you go to a lot of other countries, they definitely have one sport that is like, above all, and then everything else is significantly lower.
yeah,
But in America, I think it's a little more. I agreed. Football's king. I
always,
mean,
yeah.
on a Monday they steal the spotlight
Yeah,
with
and
a train, but
they'll have millions of viewers watch the first round of the draft on a Thursday night in the middle
oh
of
yeah,
April or the end of April, when there's basketball and baseball going on. They'll get more views than anything
yeah.
on just a draft. So
I will
so
say,
they're
man,
definitely king for sure.
I was thinking earlier about because I was watching the Dodgers play, and I was thinking that one of my greatest pleasures in life is getting off of work and going to a baseball game, even just by yourself, having a couple beers and a hot dog, and just that ending to the day, especially on like a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, like middle of the week kind of stuff. Oh, and the stadium's not super packed. Like it
Hmm.
has a very relaxed vibe. Like even the players seem a little more relaxed.
Yeah.
There's just something about it that is just a joy.
Yeah. At the old ballpark, I went to a lot of
Oh
Tuesday,
yeah.
Wednesday
Yeah,
games
I do
because
too.
you can get the cheap tickets, especially if no offense to the or the smaller market teams or whatever, but someone who's not having a great year, you know,
It's not
comes
even
in.
smaller market teams. I mean, I remember who was it I went and saw now? Man, I'm trying to think. I think the Angels came to town and they were they were in like on a Tuesday, Wednesday, and I went on a Tuesday and I got the lower level like corner box seats, like
Oh yeah.
down the line.
Oh yeah.
They're
Good
normally
seats.
like $45 seats, and I was getting them for like $15, like
Yeah.
regularly.
It's really a
And
team
so
that's not competitive. But if the Yankees or Red Sox or someone
yeah.
like that comes
Well, and
in,
the Angels were just having a bad year. Like they were
mhm.
just having a bad year.
And what
And
else is new?
so, well, hey, listen, they beat us plenty of times, but they were just having a bad year that year. And for they midweek, yeah,
We beat them plenty of times too, Gordon.
yeah, it's true.
Yeah, Mike Trout, Philly
Listen, I
fan.
just
Mike
need the
Trout's a Philly
Rangers.
fan. Mike Trout's a Philly fan.
Yeah, of course, he's a Philly fan. He's
He
from
grew up
Philadelphia.
he grew up in New Jersey,
Yeah, I mean, of
right
course
there
he's a Philly.
across the river from Philly.
Yeah, of course he's a Philly fan. Like it makes sense that he would be a Philly fan.
Yeah, well,
Like
he can't.
if he was a California boy and became a Philly fan, I'd be like, okay, this is problematic. Like you couldn't pick anybody else, like
Yeah, I'll,
literally anybody else.
I'll never fault anyone for rooting for their hometown team. That's just what you're supposed to do.
I don't. I mean, yes.
No argument.
Well,
If my brother-in-law Tristan watches this, he knows exactly what I'm talking about because he is a damn Washington fan, a Washington football team fan.
and has he ever been to Washington?
No, I mean he travels a lot, but I don't think he's ever been to DC. And he grew up here in DFW, and
His family's
it's
big.
the family's
His
big Cowboys fans.
I was say his family's big Cowboys fans too. It
Yeah,
almost
big
makes me
time.
wonder if like he picked them just because everybody else was a big Cowboys fan, and so it was just something to make everybody mad,
Well,
like at a
I
young
did some
age.
investigative reporting on this,
Oh, okay.
investigative journalism.
Yeah.
I was trying to crawl into the mind of a sick, depraved Washington football team fan, and especially a guy from Dallas, Fort Worth. So, what I came to uncover was that when he was at a young, impressionable age, he loved Robert Griffin III when he was at Baylor.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so that's kind of
He
where that
went to the
connects. He
Washington
was a
football team.
huge Robert RG3 fan. He loved RG3. Thought he was the next Mike Vick type deal. And he
A
went to
lot of people did.
Washington.
A lot of
Yeah,
people did.
fair. That's fair. He won the Heisman. I mean, he was a huge hit in Texas. Everyone was talking about
He
him.
had a really good rookie year too.
He had a great rookie year, and Mike Shanahan. I blame Mike Shanahan for putting him back in that game and tearing his knee up even more because he was never the same.
Nope.
And but so even then after that, Tristan he he still liked the Redskins. Damn, I always do that.
Washington
Well,
football team.
to be fair, at the time they were still called the Redskins. So,
That's true. That is
um,
true.
but yeah, so that's kind of where it came from, I guess, and I understand that. But
Can
it
I
shows you
just
also, real quick, it shows you that like these generations are different now because Gordon, we were the generation that sit down and watch a game with our dad or our grandpa. We watch a whole game through. We go to a game, stay the whole time. And this newer age, they like to get the highlights more,
well,
and
it's not
it's
even that.
hard to keep their attention for 3 hours on something. And they're not so much dedicated to teams as
They
they
like the
are.
sport.
Well, they like players in the sport,
I get that.
you
I've
know.
said for a long time that I am a big fan of the Texas Rangers, but I am a baseball fan as much as anything. Um, and because of that, I think a lot of it starts with our generation, if I'm honest with you, because we had ESPN, like it was something we had
Yeah,
Stuart Scott, rest in peace. We had all these guys, Scott Van Pelt, all these guys that we would tune in to watch at the end of the night.
yeah.
I mean,
Sports Center was it, man. It was like Sports
how
Center
many
is where
times
you got all your
how many
news.
times did you go to sleep with Sports Center on and you had to watch
Can't even
you had
count, bud.
because the so for those of you who are not old enough to remember, at one point Sports Center would do a show after all the sports had happened and they would just literally loop it
Yeah,
and it would just loop the rest of the night.
that's right. Yeah,
And so you would turn it on, find, say, okay, this is the Bulls highlights versus whoever. And okay, the Bulls won. And then you would watch. And then as soon as the Bulls highlights came back on again later, you're like, okay, time to go to bed. And then
yeah.
you would just go to bed.
It was Sports Center. They would
Right.
after
But
a certain time, it would
it
just
was
loop
just Sports Center.
until about 7 o'clock in the morning. Or actually,
Yeah.
it looped later than that because I remember waking up being a kid and sitting in front of the TV Indian style, eating a bowl of cereal, watching the Sports Center stuff
Yeah.
rolling through, getting ready for
So
school and stuff.
so I think between that and things like NFL Sunday Ticket becoming more and more popular and
Yeah.
the Red Zone channel, I think those kind of things really have sort of expanded this deal where why watch one game when I can watch 16 games?
You know what I think it is, especially for football in particular, is fantasy football has
Yeah.
made fans of players more
Yeah,
than
that's
loyalty to
true.
teams. And I think that definitely is probably the biggest thing is that fantasy football has done that. And also YouTube, and maybe not just YouTube, but all the video sharing sites, the highlights themselves of being on your cell phone, you can just access. Oh, what did Steph Curry do last night? What did Kevin Durant do last night? What
Yeah.
did LeBron James do? So I think that's what's
Certainly
changed a little bit.
certainly some changes. Not necessarily a bad thing.
No,
Um, you
but
know,
baseball in particular they need to be prepared to adapt to this. Baseball is particularly slow at adapting to trends for some reason, but
well, I think
they don't
I,
market their people like superstars. Like they have a hard time doing that. And the
I think
big
a lot of it
markets,
is
the big
that
markets have always been the big markets like just New York, LA, Boston,
well, I think a lot of it comes down to baseball is vastly different from every other sport in that, say you have a stud pitcher on your team, right?
hmm
No matter whether he's a starter or relief pitcher, he's not pitching every day. It's not
Yeah.
happening. Even
hmm
if you shrunk the season,
Yeah, they
like
still
you and I
wouldn't.
have talked about, I don't think they should. I love the long season. But even
Ah,
if they shrunk the
100
season,
games, baby.
even if they shrunk it to 100 games, these guys aren't pitching every day.
That's
In
true.
fact, if anything, they would probably pitch less than they do now. They probably just would appear in less games. They would probably pitch on the same rotation setup that they pitch now. They would just physically appear in less games by the time it was all said and done. So I think you run into it that. You also run into, baseball is incredibly difficult to do because it's an individual team game. Like, like if you go look at like the breakdown for the Rangers game today, right? Fulte had the wildest potentially stat line for a pitcher I've ever seen. I mean, guy threw 4 innings, gave up 4 runs, on 4 hits. He gave up 2 home runs, had
Yeah, it's
3
wild.
walks and 7 Ks. And it's just a wild thing, but that's one pitcher doing his thing while simultaneously Isaiah Kiner Falefa, the
IKF.
short, IKF, he went 2 for 4. He's batting 353 on the year.
Yeah, I think he's a real deal, man.
No, I really like IKF.
I do too.
I mean, Joey Gallo today struck out 3 times, but he's still hitting 385 on the year. So I don't really know that we know is going to come down.
Joey's going to strike out. I mean, it's just.
I understand that. That's the nature of the beast.
Yeah.
But my point is that, like,
left-handed power hitter is going to strike out.
Yeah, and I get that. But that's kind of my point, though, is you have a guy like Joey Gallo who goes 0 for 3, and then you have a guy like IKF who goes 2 for 4, and your pitcher has this wild stat line, but it all rolls into this loss. And so I think that's where one of the things baseball does struggle with for sure. But,
Rangers ended up losing 6-2 today.
Oh, yeah.
In their home opener. We had the stadium packed, baby. We had the ballpark packed.
Well, I'm not surprised by that. I mean, the Rangers have never had a hard time really getting people to come to the game.
Yeah. They had the ball. I mean, I'm talking about as far as COVID restrictions and stuff.
Yeah.
They said COVID be damned. Pack this place.
Yeah.
But, they're not going to have a full house every game. Like, oh, by the way, Gordon, I didn't tell you, but remember, I'm keeping my promise on a full concessions review by May 1st because I have tickets for April 18th against the O's Sunday game.
Oh, I love a Sunday game.
Yeah, the Rangers be wearing them beautiful baby blues.
Is it a 2:05 game?
It is a 1:35 game.
That's weird.
Yeah, okay. Well, I think it's because we're playing the East Coast team for some reason. It's like a 1:35 game.
Well, because that's the reason. So that's the reason that the Rangers played at 2:05 on Sundays. They used to have Sunday night games too. Yeah. And they realized that if they played 2:05s, they called them getaway days because they were like, we can just get out of here early.
Yeah.
But yeah, either way, I am looking forward to that because I really the pricing is something I'm curious about because again, I know that we're pretty spoiled in Texas with the concession pricing.
Oh yeah. I do know that they're not accepting any cash due to COVID restrictions and stuff like that. So
that makes sense.
I'm interested to see how that's. I guess the beer vendor guys walking around are going to have squares or something.
Probably.
Square, which is cool. So,
I mean, there's at this point, man, like, who really carries cash around all the time?
No one. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. So, like,
drug dealers.
And hey, man, I'm sure even some of them got some cars going. But I feel like it's just a smart thing to do to move away from cash in general as much as you can. Then you don't have to worry about. Then as a fan, you don't have to worry about paying astronomical ATM fees or anything like that. You just show up and you're ready to go.
Yeah, Rangers did lose 6-2, but like you said, IKF 2 for 4, Gallo 0 for 3.
I'm not really surprised by that. I mean, that's something I expect out of him. If I'm completely honest, I expect him to be, up and down.
Trevino actually went 1 for 4, and he's batting 385 on the year. So good for him. Good start. And
if we can get any kind of offense out of our catchers, that is just fantastic for us because we have not gotten a lot of offense out of our catchers for the last several years.
Yeah. On the flip side, Toronto, Marcus Semien went 2 for 5 with a 2-run home run. And Biggio was 1 for 2. I guess he had a walk. Yeah, 2 walks. 1 for 2 with 2 walks. And Guerrero Jr. went 1 for 3. Had an RBI. So, and Randall Grichuk went 2 for 3.
Yeah, Biggio did in a home run, and so did Semien.
Yeah. And Guerrero Jr. had 2 RBIs. So,
yeah.
Guerrero Jr. is batting 333 to start the year. So, good start for him. And Randall Grichuk's batting 462 so far to start the year.
Yeah, that's if you can get that team is scary to me because they have so much young talent.
Yeah.
So much young talent.
Biggio and Bichette are still hitting, like Bichette's hitting 188 and Biggio's hitting 143. It's still early, but I kind of expected them to have a little bit better start, but it's pretty early. So,
yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I definitely get where that's coming from, but I just kind of think they're young. They got to get into it, man. Maybe they didn't. We always see at the beginning of the season these batting averages are super high, super low. They're kind of all over the place. I
All
will
right.
say this: keep an eye. One last note:
Yeah.
keep an eye on the Blue Jays, man. They have a lot of talent. A lot. They have good arms. They have good. Whew, they have a lot going for them.
What is this I'm seeing here? We'll talk about it when we come back, but I think I'm seeing here that there's going to be a Connor Poirier rematch, but we'll talk about it when we come back. I'll look into it. But I think we're going to have a Connor Poirier 2 fight coming up. So,
It'd be three.
would it?
It would be.
It would
It
be
is.
three.
It
Well,
is
technically,
signed.
it'd be three. It's a rematch from this last one, but yeah, you're right. They fought in
Yeah.
UFC 178 a while back, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll take a quick break and we'll be back with you guys here in a minute.
Adios.
All right, guys, we're back. Just a blink of an eye for you, but it
Snap of
is,
the old fingers.
yeah, it is true. Which y'all might have seen this news already, but I feel it's important to talk about that McGregor and Poirier are going to fight for a third time at UFC 264. Interesting fact, Gordon. The belt will not be on the line.
I'm not really surprised by that. I don't think Connor really deserves a shot at the belt right now.
Yeah, I think that's fair, especially since he just lost to Poirier. But
Yeah. I'm down for the fight. I definitely want to see the fight again. But I don't think that McGregor has earned a shot at the belt. Like he just you got to work back up to it.
yeah, I think that's fair. I
So
think that is fair. Yeah, so McGregor's not fighting Poirier for the belt, but what do you think? I mean, what if McGregor loses this fight? Is he gonna retire or is he gonna go down to featherweight? Because you know that
honestly,
lightweight
man,
division is loaded.
well he's got a better record at featherweight, doesn't he?
Yeah, yeah, he's got a better record at featherweight. I think he's only lost one fight at featherweight.
I feel
He might
like
not even lost a fight at featherweight. Oh no,
it
he's
would
he's
be
7-0 as a featherweight, 1-2 as a lightweight, and 2-1 as a welterweight. And he's that one, two of those fights at welterweight were against Nate Diaz, so he's 1-1 against Nate Diaz.
I just feel like that's his only real
Or
option.
did he fight Diaz 3 times? Can't remember.
I feel like they fought three times. But I just feel like that's his only real option, man. Like he's
Oh, sorry to interrupt you, Gordon, but the other welterweight fight was against Cowboy Cerrone.
oh, that's right. That's right. I just feel like I mean, I don't know, man. Like it's weird because he hasn't looked like the same fighter for a while. Like
Yeah,
since the Mayweather thing, like I feel like
yeah.
he talks all the time about how he's in it, and I believe he is, but I just believe that it, I don't know, man. I don't know. Like it's
You know,
weird.
I know Connor's a real polarizing guy, personality and stuff. But one thing I've always liked about Connor is even after all the shit talking and all the show, if you notice in his losses, he's very humble and he's very appreciative towards the other fighter, and like he's very
He's
he's
usually that way in his victories too.
yeah,
Like
even in
occasion
his victories
he
he'll
does. I mean,
yeah
he keeps running his mouth, but that's more usually like it's a broader thing. But like
yeah
he's selling fights. Like he definitely. But
yeah.
I
That's the
guess I
persona he puts on. Like I remember when he knocked out Cerrone, like he came over and like hugged him on
yeah.
his head and was like, caught you with the shoulder or whatever he said to him. But he seems like maybe that's a persona, like kind of how Mayweather does, wants to be
I
the
think
villain
I
type.
think for
Yeah.
me, um, like I don't want to see him lose. I want to see him get back to form and win fights again.
Yeah.
But I kind of feel like we're going down the Ronda Rousey route.
Ooh,
Like,
you're going to put that call in?
yeah, I mean, just like, well, if you look at it, it's very similar, right? They both started making money outside of UFC and
Yeah.
making
True.
good money outside of UFC. And then that's when Rousey started losing these fights. And like she went from being the most dominant athlete in the UFC to just getting whipped.
Yeah, I think
And
that was
that's
early. That's early in the women's like coming around,
no,
and
it was,
I
but
think
like
the fighters, her competition got much better.
I think so too. But I don't think I mean, nobody expected Holly Holm to beat her,
No, not really.
and
I mean, Holly was a good striker, so that's what people
Holly
were
was a good
saying.
striker, but everybody thought that Rousey's going to do Rousey.
Amanda
But
Nunes is the one that ended her. Like
yeah,
it
well, no,
was
and
nasty.
that's the thing. Like that's the thing is for whatever reason at that point, Rousey was not the same fighter she had been, and the competition was better than they had been. And I kind of feel like that's a similar situation that McGregor's facing because when McGregor first came in, he was knocking everybody out with fists. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, he was basically boxing these guys into submission.
that's all
He
he
wasn't.
does.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It wasn't a lot of ground and pound. It wasn't a lot of that. He has won some fights where he ended up on the ground, but he's not usually the one who's in charge.
Not very often.
Yeah, but
He's an ambush fighter, and
yeah,
if you get out of the first round with McGregor, you got a real good chance of winning
yeah.
because he is an ambush and he's gonna sprint like he burns himself out a lot in the first round, but that's how he beats a lot of people too.
Mm-hmm. But that's my point is as things have gone along, I feel like other people are getting better and they're learning how to fight him, and he's going, well, this is how I've always done it.
Yeah,
And I don't know. I mean, look, I like him, and I just want him to be good. I don't, I hated the way Ronda Rousey went out because she had
yeah.
been so good and had done so much for UFC and had made it so exciting to watch
For
that
women's
I
UFC, yeah, for
hated.
sure, yeah,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, because before her, it was like who fights women's
yeah.
UFC,
She was
and
the
then
first
after
big
that,
like
it was
superstar woman
yeah,
in
and
UFC.
she was so big that I mean, I remember she was the reason that I was watching UFC fights. I
Yeah,
didn't even care who the men was fighting. It was like, who's fighting? Rousey. Okay, cool. I'll watch it. So I hated the way that happened for her, and I understand it. And these things happen, but you hate to see that. And
well,
so
you
I
know,
don't want to see that kind of thing happen with McGregor. But I feel like we're kind of in that vein where it's not that he doesn't have the heart. He just, for whatever reason, it's not translating to success.
yeah, we'll just have to see. That was his first fight in a long time. He was off for a long time, and Poirier had a great game plan. He just chewed his lead leg
Yeah.
up. And I don't expect him to just sit there with that wide stance this time with that lead leg out there for Poirier to just annihilate. Because I don't know if you saw him after the fight; he was on crutches.
Yeah.
Like Poirier destroyed his leg,
Yeah.
just chewed it all up.
Yeah.
And as far as Ronda Rousey goes, when she ran into Amanda Nunes, like most people,
Oh,
like
yeah.
Amanda Nunes is the woman superstar now. I don't even know who they're gonna put up to fight her. I mean,
Well, I mean,
and
somebody
that
will
was
come along.
ugly when Ronda fought Amanda Nunes. Amanda
Yeah.
Nunes beat her like a stepchild. It was
Yeah.
ugly. Like you could tell she was outclassed.
Yeah.
So, but Ronda's
Well, and
been successful in other adventures outside of UFC.
no, she
So,
has. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I hated it because of what happened with Ronda specifically, because it did end ugly. And
yeah,
I don't want to see that happen to McGregor because it was tough to watch as somebody who was a fan of Rousey and as someone who has been a fan of McGregor. I don't want to see that happen.
okay. Well, let's play this game real quick before we jump on to something else. What if Connor wins? He's not getting the belt, but what if he
No,
beats the
if he
champ?
wins, I think well, here's the deal. I think if he wins, you might see Khabib come back. And here's what I would see happening. Dana, if I'm Dana White, I hope that Connor wins because here's what I do. I call Khabib and say, hey, bud, you got a shot against Poirier for the title right off the bat. And if you
Yeah,
win that, then you fight McGregor to
McGregor,
retain the title.
McGregor
And
too.
that
Yeah,
explodes everything.
yep.
Everybody wants that. And
I'm sure
and
that's how
Dana
Dana
White
wants it to play out. Yeah.
will say it. I guarantee you, if everything falls, Dana will be like, "Yep, this is what's going to happen." If if Connor wins this fight, then I promise you, he's going to call Khabib and be like, "Hey, all right, bud, there's money
Yeah.
to be made here. Do you want to make some money? You don't need it, but do you want it?"
It feels kind of shitty though to the rest of the lightweight division is pretty awesome, and everyone was kind of waiting for Khabib to because no one was going to beat him, and so the lightweight division is loaded, and you're just going to like, well, McGregor if he beats the champ but doesn't get the belt, you're just going to let him fight for the belt, fight Khabib first. But I understand because it is the the star power of Conor McGregor. I
Well,
think
and I
maybe the
think
other fighters understand that too, but the lightweight division is loaded. So
I think there is something to be said for understanding that, right? Like, um, I think that that's what you want to happen. I think you, I think that's how you want it to go.
yeah,
I think you want McGregor to beat Poirier, Khabib come back, fight Poirier for the belt. Belt goes whoever, and then and look. In the meantime, maybe a guy like Tony Ferguson comes up a little further, or was it Oliveira? Maybe one of those guys makes a run, or you know, who knows? Um,
hey, one fight coming up, Gordon, is pretty interesting. My dude Jorge Masvidal is gonna rematch with Kamaru Usman for the belt April 24th at UFC 261. So that's coming
I
up.
think that's gonna be. I think that's gonna be like a good one because Masvidal is just a
I love Masvidal. I just love him,
yeah
and I like Usman too. He's good. He's a great fighter, but
yeah
he'll probably beat Masvidal if I was to guess. But I just like watching Masvidal fight. He's a animal.
yes he is absolutely an animal, and it is terrifying to watch, and it is just oof, it's dangerous to watch.
Yeah, I'm looking here see if there's anything else coming up. And oh, by the way, guys, that McGregor Poirier fight is scheduled to be on July 10th. So that's July 10th. So still a little ways off, but
I will say this, man. I've got to acknowledge this. Um, I have been really impressed with the fight cards from UFC, even for their fight night stuff. UFC has done a fantastic job, and I think that under Dana White's leadership, especially during COVID, I think they have grown their following because they've been one of the few things that just kept going. Like they just kept. And if you look right now, I mean, like if you go to their website and look, they have they have a deal coming up the April 10th, and they have the next week. Like it's like every week they have something. Every week they're like, hey guys, we have another fight. Some of it's fight night, some of it is UFC pay-per-views. But even these fight nights that I don't know if you've looked at any of these some of these just regular fight nights are good.
oh yeah. Yeah, real good. And
So
those are free if you have the ESPN Plus subscription, which a lot of people have it with Hulu and Disney
yeah,
Plus combined and all that. But yeah, I think that's one of the great things about UFC. If you're not watching UFC right now, it's a great thing to get into because there's no off season and
yeah,
there's championship fights regularly.
yeah.
And it's just really cool, man, that there's no off season. And it's like every weekend you're going to get something. You're going to get a fight night, which will have some good fights in it. And then, the UFC pay-per-views are going to have great fights. And there's just a lot of drama, always stuff to talk about. So if you're not watching it, it's really cool. If you're a football guy and you're like, man, I don't got nothing going on. It's the off season, the draft's in a little bit. You can hop on UFC and it's year round. So it's pretty neat.
I mean, who doesn't like watching some combat sports?
Yeah. It's it's definitely risen from what it used to be with the gray season and all that stuff. So
Oh yeah.
Dana White's done a great job doing that. And man, oh, they haven't announced yet the Ngannou versus John Jones fight. That's supposed to be who Ngannou is going to defend his belt against first, but
Oh yeah.
they're kind of at this is kind of saying that they haven't come to financial terms and it seems to be at an impasse. So I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but he's going to have to defend that belt. So we'll see who
I
gets a
don't think
shot. Maybe Derek
I
Lewis
have a
gets a shot.
feeling I have a feeling it's gonna be more uh John Jones that's not a fan of the financial situation rather than Ngannou.
If I was John Jones, I wouldn't be a fan of wanting to fight Ngannou. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a UFC fighter, but I don't know who in the world would want to get in the ring with that guy right now. He is just NyQuil. He's sleeping everybody.
He's not- you go to sleep. You
Yeah,
go
they
to
call
sleep.
that fool NyQuil, man, on the streets. He's just putting everybody to sleep.
Yeah, he's out here. Whew, it's just dangerous, man.
Yeah.
Uh,
So, anyways, that's a little UFC breakdown, man. I love UFC. Y'all should check it out. Connor McGregor is interesting to. It'll be interesting to watch him fight
I hope
Poirier.
he does well. I hope he does well, man. I
Even if
really
it's just
do.
a solid showing, even if he loses a decision or whatever, it'd be,
Yeah.
you know. But Gordon, did you
So
know
much.
they're making the NCAA football game again?
I did know that. So when the new consoles first came out, I'm always like for the last several consoles, I don't rush out to get one. And especially this go round, like I was not paying all that extra money. But then I found out that's coming out and I'm like, man, I think I'm gonna have to buy one
Interesting.
because all my friends are gonna be playing it and I can't get it on Xbox because all my friends are on PlayStation. So I'm gonna have to somehow cough up the money along the way. So
Mm-hmm.
speaking of NCAA football, man, you know what's weird? And I was thinking about this. This is the power that the NFL has. I start thinking about football, and then I immediately at some point start thinking about NCAA football because it's so much fun. But NCAA football doesn't have the same year-round effect that pro football does. And
Yeah,
so,
it's fall heavy. Yeah,
yeah, I mean, well, I've just been kind of sitting
boys of
here.
fall.
I've just been kind of sitting here, like looking over matchups that are coming up, the first couple of weeks um, of the season and all that kind of stuff. And then I realized like the first like games are August 28th.
Yeah, I always say it's
Like,
not that far away, man.
I mean, it's not that far, but it is, right? Like, it's far enough. And the only thing really
It's
happening
really
between now
not.
and then
I
is
mean, we know how fast
four
it
and a half
goes by.
months.
Yeah, we know how fast that goes by.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's wild because you think about it in school terms and you still have, about a month left of, the college semester for most colleges. Then you've got a full summer and then you get into football.
Yeah.
So,
Something interesting though. There's some fairly good games in that. Not that first Saturday necessarily, but on that there's a Thursday, September 2nd lineup that has Ohio State, Minnesota, and one that really interests me is North Carolina going to Lane Stadium at Virginia Tech.
yeah,
It's
that's going
kind
to
of
be a good
cool.
one.
Kind of
Mac
cool.
Brown has definitely,
Yeah, he's got that program turned around. Yeah.
he really has. And there's been some talk because it's his second time at North Carolina.
Second time to turn that program around.
And it's this exactly. And he's, like man, I'm glad he's being successful because I've always liked Mac Brown.
Yeah, I mean,
Even
I never liked Texas, but I've always respected Mac Brown, and now
yeah,
I can really like him because
yeah,
he's on the other side of the country doing good things with a different school.
yeah. I mean, it's just I don't know, man.
Hey,
It's
has Mac Brown? Mac Brown reminds me of George Bush. Does he? You get that?
yeah, yeah, I do. Yeah, okay, I definitely
He
see that.
reminds me a lot of George Bush.
But
But
yeah, man, he's a guy that he's real likable. He's the kind of guy you want to root for,
yeah, for sure.
and you know, you certainly hope that he finds at least some success, and then who doesn't want to see North Carolina? I mean, North Carolina has a football team,
Yeah, they're going to a hard place to win in, even if Virginia Tech's not necessarily good. I don't know. I don't know what they're like expected to be this
What,
year,
yeah. Well,
but
to me,
that
that's a
is a
hard thing.
very tough place to win a
Oh
football
yeah.
game.
It's really hard to kind of guess ahead in football. I mean, as someone who follows tech pretty closely, I don't even know how we're going to be. I really, obviously, hopefully we do well. But no idea,
Yeah.
you really have no idea. And
Well, I'll tell you what, on this Saturday, September 4th, which is like technically this, they call it week one, but it's technically the second week of actual games. But some interesting games there. Alabama going to no, I'm sorry, Alabama playing Miami in Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. So that's kind of cool. And then you also get Georgia and Clemson at the Panthers Stadium, Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, Georgia at Clemson. That's pretty neat. There's some big games to start the year off.
Always, yeah, always like those big games to start the year off.
Yeah, and you're playing your Tech Raiders are going to be playing Houston, bud, at
Yeah, we're traveling
NRG.
down to Houston. That's gonna be a tough game.
Tough
I'm not
game
gonna
for
lie.
you to start the year there.
I'm not gonna lie. That's one of those games that you go, well, I guess trial by fire. Like just jump in with both feet. I hope you can swim, boys.
Yeah, and the annual Jerry World College Football game is going to be Stanford at K State for all you DFW guys interested. So not as much of a premier game as we usually get. You know, a lot of times we get like LSU versus Oregon or something, some really premier matchup to start the year. But Stanford K
Now,
State ought to be a fun matchup. So
now didn't they end up being like first or second in the Pac-12 last year?
yeah, Stanford's
Stanford.
always a solid program, man. So um, also just the week after that, I was looking some pretty cool games, and then Gordon, if you want to bring up tech schedule and talk about, there's probably a couple games you just want to highlight because I know there's some A&M. I'm gonna talk about when Alabama and A&M play, but Texas plays Arkansas. This is a Saturday, September 11th, week 2. So Texas is going to Fayetteville to play Arkansas.
I we talked so we looked at Texas's
I like
schedule
it.
a little earlier, and I think Texas has a very good chance to be a good team this year. But that Arkansas game is going to be really tough. Fayetteville's a tough place, rabid fans. But Texas has a really tough, game. They travel to TCU on the 2nd of October, right? And they have a hard time with TCU. For whatever reason, TCU has been really good against University of Texas
Yeah,
the last
Gary
several years.
Patterson has their number
Yeah.
recently.
Then they have OU, which we know the Red River rivalry. Say that 3 times fast.
Yeah,
We know
shootout.
we know what that game is. It's always a barn burner. And it doesn't, everybody plays up for that game. Then they play Oklahoma State.
When is
And
that?
then they
What date? It was the date for the Oklahoma Texas game.
10-9. The 9th.
Interesting, because Alabama and A&M play on 10-9.
Yeah.
October 9th.
So big day of college football. Then they play Oklahoma State, and Oklahoma State, solid
They always
program.
play Texas. They play Texas tough every year too.
So, and then they travel to Baylor, which I don't know how good Baylor's going to be this year, but following Baylor, they have to travel to the place where college football dreams go to die, Ames, Iowa. Wild stuff happens in Ames,
and the Bermuda Triangle of college football.
Every year, you and I talk at some point about what happens in Ames, and nobody can explain it. Science can't explain it. Religion can't explain it. It just something happens up there. I've seen really good programs go up there and lose.
Oh yeah,
and Iowa State doesn't even always have so they may go 6-6 on the year. So they may have a middling year and beat a top 10 ranked team.
Yeah, they'll beat OU and Ames.
OU may come to town and be number 3 in the nation and look horrible. Not just lose, but look horrible.
Hard to escape Ames with a win. Yeah, we do talk about it every year, man. And usually in the middle of the year, we'll start seeing how teams are developing and be like, oh look.
Mm-hmm. And then you start looking for that. Ames, man. Then you start looking for that. Yeah, that's. I think that stretch is going to be really tough for the Longhorns. Following that, they play Kansas. They got to travel to West Virginia, and then they play K-State. But Kansas and K-State are at home. West Virginia's on the road.
So if they get out of Ames alive, they can probably.
I think if they get out of Ames alive, they could probably run it out. Looking at teams that have to travel to Ames this year, Texas is the big one. Mm-hmm. Oklahoma State has to travel to Ames as well. So, and of course, they play Iowa early in the year.
Yeah, they play them week 2. I was going to touch on that. Yeah, that's September 11th. There's lots of these cool rivalry games for some reason are being played week 2. Like you got Missouri, Kentucky, and then South Carolina, East Carolina, and North Texas, SMU, Houston versus Rice. It's like rivalry week,
When does TCU play
SMU?
Because that's become a pretty good game.
I'm not quite sure, but this is like rivalry week, I guess, because it's like Boston College versus UMass, Rutgers versus Syracuse. I mean, it's like on and on. A cool game is Oregon versus Ohio State that week in Columbus. That's a cool game. Not necessarily a rivalry, but
By the way, week 3 is SMU versus
the next week.
the next week.
Wow. Also, you got
What
Tulsa at Oklahoma State that week, and Air Force Navy,
isn't that the battle for the Golden Skillet?
Stanford
The
US.
SMU.
Yeah, yeah. Stanford USC. I mean, Utah versus BYU. It's all these rivalry games. There's just
Yeah.
that's gonna be a great week. That's September 11th. So man, that's gonna
Yeah.
be pretty interesting. So TCU, you said, oh no, SMU got to play North Texas, then TCU the next week.
Yep.
Yeah, and Iowa State. That's also week 2, like you said. So Iowa's actually going into Ames, but
Yeah, it's gonna
pretty
be
cool, man. Pretty cool. I
it's
can't
gonna
wait.
be yeah. College football, man, is just it's a whole different beast. It's a
Yeah,
whole different beast.
pretty excited about that.
So
Any tech game you want to highlight that you're interested in?
um I want to see how we do against Houston. I think that's going to tell us a lot about this team. We did just get, we got a quarterback transfer in. We've got a new, Sonny Cumby came home from TCU, where he's been for the last several years. So I'm interested to see how our offense does. I'm not thrilled about starting off the season against Houston. Um, I mean, Houston's going to be a good program and a tough team. So I think that's going to be certainly a tough one. Traveling to Texas is going to be that's week 4 for us. I think that's going to be a tough game. Yeah, I think that's probably going to be. I think that's going to be a real test for us.
Yeah,
Real test. Fortunately, we don't have to travel to Ames. But
fortunately, yeah.
yeah, but we do have to travel to Austin. I think that's going to be a tough one for us, if I'm honest with you.
Yeah, man. I think I hate to say it, but I think Texas is loaded this year, and I think Sark's going to have their offense humming. Their quarterback and their running back that played a little bit at the end of last year.
Yeah.
I don't know if Texas is going to. I think Texas is playoff bound. So
I think one of the big questions is does Texas paused some of their spring stuff because of COVID stuff? They had, I know, I don't know for how long. I don't. They may still be paused. I'm not sure, but I know that they had paused some stuff because they were concerned about people getting COVID and stuff like that. So I
yeah,
wonder.
I think everyone's going to be dealing with that a little bit, but
Sure.
maybe for them with a new staff, it might be impactful. But
And that's kind of my point, because this is Sark's first year and all that kind of stuff. So I'm curious to see what happens. But
yeah, so Texas OU is on 10-9, and the only game really I care to highlight about A&M, which is the one that really matters, is when we play Bama. We got some tough games. It's the SEC. You can lose any game, but like last year, Alabama's the only team that beat them. So,
yep.
but this year, Alabama is coming to Kyle Field, and I'm sure that'll be a primetime game. It'll be fun to watch.
Is A&M going to effectively replace Kellen Mond?
God, I hope so. I know that they had this dude named Haynes King, which was the coach's son from Longview that played
Mm-hmm.
quarterback and when they won a state championship. So he's like a big 6'6". I don't know how big he is now but he was lanky 6'6" type quarterback. So he'll be different than Mond. I don't know who they plan on starting this year. I haven't been following it, but I'm sure as the spring goes by and stuff, we'll start hearing some stuff.
Yeah.
So let me take a look at what they got here.
I'm curious just because of
Interesting game for A&M. They do have to go to Boulder, Colorado to play the Colorado Buffaloes on September 11th. That's that second week. Also, that's going to have a bunch of good matchups. So
that I think that's going to be a good game, because Colorado has been quietly getting better, I feel like.
yeah, they had a pretty good year last year, didn't they? They had that LaVisca Chenault guy that went to Jacksonville, and they had
Yep.
a couple other good players. I can't remember now, but yeah, we'll see. A&M should win that game, but I can see that being tough, going there second week of the year.
Yeah,
Let's
it's always
see.
with COVID and everything. I feel like it's been a really kind of tough thing to trace how everybody's doing and everything and how they've done. But yeah, I mean that's gonna be a big game for Colorado hosting A&M, and it really sets off a pretty big deal for them because they got Texas A&M at home. They travel to Minnesota, then they got Arizona State at home, and then they no, I'm sorry, Minnesota State at home. They travel Minnesota at home. They travel to Arizona State, USC at home. Um, so that A&M game is going to kick off a pretty big spot for them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, really, A&M was expected to go there and win. I can see it being a tough game, but
And actually,
I
that
would
that
be
game is
disappointed if they highly disappointed if they lost that game.
that game's actually being played at Empower Field at Mile High. It's not being played at Boulder.
Yeah, it is being played at Mile High. Yeah.
Yeah, according to the Colorado Buffaloes
Yes, sir.
website.
That's correct. They're going to Mile High, so that even makes it tougher. I would think. I would think so.
Yeah, but I think I mean, I agree. I think A&M. I think a lot of it's going to come down to how effectively they replace Kellen Mond.
I'm sorry. Haynes King is 6'3". I thought he was a little bit taller, but they got Haynes King from Longview, and they got Logan Fisher, which is a quarterback from Bracketville, Texas. And I don't know who they signed this year. I have to go back and look, but they also have Zach Calzada, which is a guy from Buford, Georgia. I think he was a 3-star recruit last year. He's going to be a sophomore this year, or a redshirt freshman. He's 6'3", 205. So they got a few guys in there. But I think Haynes, the last time I checked, I think Haynes King is kind of expected to win the job. But
He's the guy that they think.
Zach Calzada could beat him out for it. But we'll just have to see. It's one of those years where, your quarterback that you had that was there for 4 year starter, he's moving on, and you kind of left going, I don't really know because I'm not inside the program and I don't know what's going on in off
Right.
season and everything, just kind of have to wait and see who rises to the top, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be. There's a lot going on, man.
They got weapons
Uh,
out everywhere though. I mean, they're getting Damon Demas back, which was the guy that he was suspended last year, but he was a 5-star recruit out of Tomball and 5-star receiver. And they got weapons everywhere. A&M always have weapons. They got A-Chain coming back, which
oh yeah,
he was a good running back last year, and he's only gonna be a sophomore. And they still got Isaiah Spiller coming back. I think I don't know if he's going to the draft or not, but so but we'll have weapons, and I think our defense will be good. And a lot of Jimbo's guys from his first few years recruiting, his recruiting classes are starting to get fill the program up now, and
yeah.
so I expect them to be competitive. I don't expect them to beat Alabama this year, but you never know.
You really don't, man. That's again kind of goes back to what we were talking about the greatness of college football. You really never know how it's going to go. You don't know how guys are going to develop. You don't know how guys are going to, there's a lot that goes into all of it. So,
Yes, sir. I would be thrilled if they made the college football playoff. I'm actually looking at an article right here on ESPN Plus of teams that improved their college football playoff chances through the 2021 recruiting, and Texas A&M is the first one they list. It says the Aggies just missed the playoff last year, finishing the regular season ranked number 5, despite the loss of quarterback Kellen Mond. A number of starting offensive linemen and key defenders in Bobby Brown and Buddy Johnson, but the Aggies make the list due to continued strong recruiting by Jimbo Fisher and the staff. And it says under Fisher, the Aggies have recruited difference-making talent on the defensive line, and they signed in the 21 class D lineman Shamar Turner. He'll be an impact freshman when he arrives in College Station immediately. And they got January enrollees, Tumisi Adelaide and Elijah Judy. And those are top ESPN top 300 defensive linemen. So they also got 4-star running back LJ Johnson and Amari Daniels, 2 4-star running backs. So look, they're the first team they listed, that improved their college football playoff chances through the 2021 recruiting. So
It'll be interesting to see, man. It
they
really will.
also list Georgia, Oklahoma, USC, and Miami. So, but they list A&M number one. Interesting. All right,
Okay.
Gordon, you about ready to wrap this thing up or what? You want to talk about the Mavs a little bit?
Yeah, man. Let's finish up with the Mavs. What do you say?
Yeah, we got to touch on our Mavs. They're doing good things. We can't leave them out. So,
I mean, we can, but they're gonna find their way in anyway. Because goodness gracious.
yes, sir. They've won 5 games in a row now. They beat the Jazz tonight, which I was really kind of using this. It's silly, but a litmus test kind of. It's like they
No,
won
I, I,
four.
th- I don't think
Yeah,
that's silly at all.
yeah. They won four games in a row against kind of okay
Yeah,
competition. But the Jazz had been rolling too. They had been beating people by 40 points, 30 points. They had been just steamrolling everyone, and then they come up to Dallas and the Mavericks beat them 111 to 103.
Mavs have won what 7 out of the last 10 now, something like that.
Yes, sir. They're now
Yeah,
28 and 21.
they play Wednesday and Thursday this week. Um,
Who are they playing Wednesday?
Wednesday they play the Rockets.
Okay.
Thursday they play the Bucks.
The Bucks. Nice. Greek freak.
Yeah, that's at home too.
Dallas wore their cool gold and white jerseys tonight. I
Oh,
think they're
did
cool
they?
at least. Yeah. I don't know if you've seen them, but they're pretty neat.
I didn't get a chance to see him.
Yeah, you should look them up. They're gold and white. Pretty neat looking. And let's see, where are the Mavericks sitting at in the standings now? Let's see. Because we just talked about in one of our podcasts a while back that we don't think they were trying to push for a 6 seed, but man, the way they're playing now, they're now 28 and 21, and they're only 2 games back of the 6. They're sitting at the 7 seed right now. They're two games back of Portland, and they're only 2.5 games back of LA Lakers in the 5 seed.
Wow.
Yeah, and they just beat Utah, who has the best record in the NBA. They're 38 and 12, so and they just beat them.
Yeah,
Utah's
that's
significantly better at home. They're 22 and 2 at home this year, so that's a tough place to go play in the altitude and all that.
16 and 10 on the road.
Yeah, 16 and 10 on the road, but Mavericks beat them, man, and honestly, I didn't expect them to. I figured, they had a good 4-game winning streak, and they'll probably drop this one because that's
Yeah.
kind of, we think they're a good team, but are they ready to beat the number one team in the NBA? And they ended up
Not
doing
even
it.
just that. Are they here's the thing. I think this team is going to be tough in the playoffs, specifically because
The Mavs be hard out, yeah.
that's the deal. Do I think they will win all the way out? Probably not. Right? If we're being realistic about it, no, I don't think they're going to
No.
win the chip. But I think that whoever does beat them is going to earn it. It's definitely going to be a dogfight because these guys are going to be really hard to beat multiple games.
Yeah, I would love to see him get to the Western Conference Finals, I think. And it would kind of show you that line of progression for Luka.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, okay, he had a great year, but the team didn't make the playoffs. And then they make the playoffs and they lose to the Clippers,
Yeah.
which was a good team.
Right.
Um, and then if they come along this year, maybe win a playoff series or two, that'd be a pretty good sign,
I
I
think they
think.
need one. I think they need to get at least one playoff series win.
They do. A young team, they need that.
Yeah. I think
It's
it'd
also
be.
to be of note that they beat the Jazz tonight without Kristaps Porzingis. So,
Yeah, I'm curious because I know they're doing a lot of load management for him.
well, he's
Uh,
actually got a sprained wrist or something like that, but
okay.
that's starting to be pretty common. So,
Yeah, I'm also beginning to feel like these sprained wrists and stuff like that are stuff that like guys used to play through, and
maybe so,
now
yeah.
they don't because they don't need to. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense.
Now instead of saying, "Hey, let's keep these guys playing" or whatever, they say, "Hey, let's sit them down for the day and then we'll move them along." You know,
Have you heard anything about what's going on with JJ Redick? Because I know they traded for him, but I'm not even seeing him listed on their team stuff here. So I know I heard a report and I seen the video of him talking on a podcast about how he was shocked that he was moved to Dallas and how Dallas was not one of the teams that he had listed that he wanted to be traded to because he wanted to be in the Northeast closer to home. So I wonder what's going on there. I'm gonna have to dig into that and get back with you guys. Maybe we'll do a short on it, but Interesting that he's not even listed on their team here. But to be of note that Finney Smith went for 23 tonight. Luca had 31 points, 9 boards, 8 assists. So pretty close to that averaging 30-point triple-double that he's becoming known for, starting to average that. And Jalen Brunson's been playing great. He had 20 points tonight, and he's 4-7 from 3. So he was a +8. And Tim Hardaway Jr. had 16. He ended up being a +12. Played pretty good. But yeah, Luca leading the way again. Oh, Richardson actually had 17, so it's not a bad night. He shot 5 of 5 from 3. So that's Mavs gonna win a lot of games if Richardson's, putting in
Yeah, if he's
17.
I was gonna say if he's putting up 17, that's definitely gonna be a big deal.
I believe I read a stat, Gordon, that I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I saw that when Richardson, when Richardson scores 20 points or more, that the Mavericks are undefeated this year. I believe that's accurate. Josh Richardson, not Jason Richardson.
Okay.
I did love me some Jason Richardson though back in the day.
Yeah.
On that NBA 2K, I think it was 2K9. I get the Suns with Amari and Jason Richardson and Steve Nash and just tear your ass up.
Yeah, man, those were some fun times.
Yeah, so Mavs are rolling, man, and they're currently in the 7th seed. They're just lurking right behind, the Lakers and
I think these
the
next couple
Trailblazers.
games, are going to be a big one. They got this week. They have 2 more games next week and the week after. Actually, for the next 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks, they have 4 games every week.
Yeah.
So, which is not really unusual. But
they're first in the Southwest Division, actually. The Southwest Division. Yeah.
Are they?
Yeah, they're above Houston and San Antonio now and Oklahoma
Makes
City.
sense.
So in Memphis. So
I mean, there's some good guys. Like, they play the Rockets, then they host the Bucks, they host the Spurs, then they host the 76ers. They got to travel to Memphis. They host New York. So I mean, the Lakers. Here's a big one for you, but
Lakers back to back, yeah.
22nd and 24th.
Oh yeah, but they're at home, so
they are both at home.
Interesting thing, if you look at the schedule, is so they're going to Houston, like you said, but then they're going to play Milwaukee, San Antonio, Philadelphia at home. Then they go to Memphis, but then they come back and they play 5 straight road game or home games again against New York, Sacramento, Detroit, and those 2 Los Angeles games. And those are winnable games.
Yeah.
I don't know if LeBron and AD will be back by April 22nd. I think LeBron definitely will. But
it is worth noting, I think, too, that
a lot of winnable games in there.
Outside of the Warriors, which the Warriors are just a team that's always tough just because of the nature of that team. But outside of that, it seems like most of their really difficult games are at home, or the games that could be potentially difficult.
Yeah.
The Bucks are at home.
They still go
Lakers,
to Golden State, but yeah, go ahead. They still go to Golden State.
They go to Golden State,
right.
but I mean, outside of that, they play the Bucks at home. They play the Lakers at home. At the beginning of May, they play the Nets, but they played them at home. Yeah. So
they do have to go to Miami. Miami's a pretty tough team. They have to go.
Miami is a tough team. They play the Wizards at home too. So I mean, like, they do have some tough games ahead, but a lot of those games are at home, man.
Yeah, and the Mavericks have the easiest. Like we talked about this before, they have the easiest strength of schedule remaining, and like that little stretch we're talking about between. So after they play Houston, they're playing a back to back Thursday. So they go to Houston, but then they come home and they start that Milwaukee game, and the 8 of the next 9 are at home, and it's against mostly winnable competition. Like the Lakers are in there and Milwaukee's in there, but outside of that, I mean, those are very winnable games. So they play 8 of 9 at home. So this stretch from it's gonna be Thursday, April 8th, all the way through April 24th. They have 8 of 9 at home, and maybe we'll see them catch that 6 or 5 seed.
Yeah. Well, and then after that, they play 3 on the road, 2 at home, 1 on the road, 2 at home. So I mean, it's not like they're just losing their home stands. I mean, it's not like they're lots of home games coming up. Certainly some stuff to keep an eye on. I mean, it's like I said, this team, they're getting hot at the right time. That's always a thing. In sports, you got to get hot at the right time. So certainly something to keep an eye on. And
Yeah, that
some
makes
we'll
it
be definitely talking about as the season winds down.
for sure. And that's what another thing impressive about their 5-game winning streak is 4 of those were on the road, and they were 4 in a
Yeah.
row. And they went to Boston and won, and then they beat New York and Washington, which New York's playing better this year, and Washington still got Russell Westbrook, which can beat you. So, and then they came home and played Utah and beat them. So, pretty impressive, man.
Yeah,
Pretty
it's gonna
impressive.
be there's a lot going on, man. There's a lot going on.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's going to do it for us, guys. Appreciate it if you stuck around the whole time. Like and subscribe for us, and we'll keep you up to date.
We'll see you down the road, guys.
See you down the road. Bye, guys.